Welcome back to the Short Coat Podcast, a production of the University of Iowa Carver College of Medicine. I'm Dave Etler. Here's some of what we've got coming up for you on today's show. We have an anonymous listener question from Valerie, whose academic past haunts her.
So I feel personally that what our undergraduate advisors tell us hold little to no water.
Show. Do you remember the Newlywed Game Show from long ago? And I thought, with Valentine's Day coming up, we should give it a try with a twist. With me in the studio to talk about all of that and perhaps more are my delightful co-hosts, medical students all, including M1 Matt Engelken.
How's it going?
We've got M3 Ananya Munjal.
Hi, pals.
We've got M3 Nathan Spitz.
Howdy, partners.
And we've got M4 Emma Barr joining us from the internet.
Hello.
Before we begin, I want to welcome back our friends at Panacea Financial as the sponsor of this episode, who want to tell you about their 2022 Match Week giveaway. So stay tuned for that a bit later in the show. Hey, I posted a heavily edited clip on Instagram from last week's show where we were talking about how confusing biostats can be, and it's no wonder people end up misinformed about science. And it kind of blew up relative to what I usually see from such posts that I make. It did include the hashtags Fauci, masks work, and masks for all. If you want to go see it, check it out. It's one of our reels. And the comments were just wild, insulting us, calling us sheep, idiots, clowns, whatnot, saying we were talking down to people who'd made a different decision. It's not really what I expected, but I probably should have. The thing is, though, we are, though we're not social media influencers, judging by our usual reach, this situation is algorithmic gold. The kind of thing that real influencers get excited about because it means Instagram's algorithm will pay more attention to us, I guess, in the future.
So now you'll have to add in some like product placements and some sponsored content with N95, sponsored by 3M, and sneak in that product placement behind us.
You're right.
I want to be careful to sort of respect everybody's position, even when I feel like it's wrong. But I'm not above basically leaning into this. So my suggestion today is I'd like us all to chant Fauci, masks work, and masks for all, just for the clicks. Okay. And then I can post that. Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Well, this is going to be really hard.
It's a tongue twister.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
What if we choose? Can we choose one? Can we just like chant Fauci? Like a
I do feel like it was the Fauci hashtag that really brought the haters.
Yeah,
the heat.
What if we do like a sports? We start low,
I
like
say
a
Fauci, you say masks. No, Nathan was going a different direction.
Oh, I was thinking you start low and slow, like Fauci.
Okay, I like it.
And then we like build.
I like that.
Okay, so maybe we do the Fauci.
Fauci.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Start slow.
Ready, set, go.
Fauci, 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 Fauci,
mask work.
Tell us a cult now, I dare you.
I know.
Definitely posting that clip.
I was speaking of Fauci, listening to what's the Daily Podcast by the New York Times, and they had interviewed him recently. And something I've noticed, especially in like his most recent interviews, is his almost like outright refusal to answer certain questions that could possibly. He's extremely careful in the words that he says in fear of being misquoted.
You pretty much have to be. I mean, look at what happened to us. We were just talking about friggin' biostatistics, and people were like, "This is why we can't."
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And just almost refusing to engage in anything, in air quotes, like controversial.
Yeah. I think he probably learned his lesson early on. Yeah.
You got to be smart. We have an anonymous listener question from Valerie, whose academic past haunts her. Let's see if we can give her some advice.
The Short Coat Podcast. First, I wanted to say thank you so much for making my morning so much fun, and they just really make my day.
You're welcome.
I also wanted to ask you if you had any advice for someone who was academically dismissed during their sophomore year of undergrad. That was now a very long time ago, but some background. I am a first-gen Latinx non-traditional student. While I was in college, being the being that that was the first time I was away from home, I definitely took full advantage of that, and
oh man,
I'll just let you figure that one out on your own.
Look, I personally know.
Consequences have actions, and they definitely caught up to me. I was dismissed my spring semester of my sophomore year. So my advisor had a chat with me, and basically she told me that no medical school within the U.S. would accept me, and that kind of just stuck in my head ever since. So I took some time, and I went away for a few months to Ecuador, which is where my family is from. And I shadowed one of my cousins who was serving as a director of a public health clinic at the time for an underserved indigenous community.
Amazing.
I gained a lot of perspective there, not only of how privileged I am to have been born within the U.S., but also to have parents who just wanted a better life for me. So by the end of the summer, I had decided to switch to being a psychology major and finish my pre-med recs. I also switched to a different school. It had much smaller classes than my previous school, and I just thrived there. I graduated magna cum laude, and I still had that thought that medical schools would never accept me. So during my last semester of undergrad, I decided to pursue a master's of public health, thinking I wanted to gain that lens. I did really well in grad school. However, right after grad school, I got married fairly quickly. And with that came along many responsibilities, such as rent and groceries. I had been on 2 research studies when March of 2020 came along, and I lost both of my jobs due to the pandemic. I was thankfully able to land a job at a fantastic public health organization that was working remotely even before the pandemic. I have been working there ever since. I really like my job, but I would have small existential crises from time to time, thinking that I should at least give med school a shot. What did I have to lose? I had a stable job and a loving and supportive husband. So all this to say that this year I decided to go for it. Any advice on addressing my academic dismissal that still haunts me to this day? Thanks in advance.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a tough one, and it's kind of not. First of all, I want to say that the academic advisor who told you that was probably correct at the time. Like, if nothing else had happened in your life, then no, you weren't going to get into medical school, not with an academic dismissal at that very moment. But then you went on and kicked some ass.
But also, what kind of academic advisor are you to just shut down, your students' dreams like that?
I'm going to tell you,
this happens a lot.
This happens a lot. Here's the truth about the matter. Thank you for your question, Valerie. First of all, amazing. What an amazing life story. And also props on being first gen. It is so ridiculously hard to be a first gen college student. And it's even harder to be a first gen medical student. And I think maybe you don't even realize, you've said that you recognize your own privilege, but you don't even realize how far you've come to even graduate as a first gen student. So amazing for you. Amazing. And that means you're the first person in your family to also get a graduate degree. So that's also amazing. That's an immense challenge, and you have surmounted that. So that's incredible. So I feel personally that what our undergraduate advisors tell us hold little to no water, because they are not, for the most part. My medical school advisor was a kind person over on the undergrad side. I should be clear. She was a very kind person. She could offer me little to no direction, and I'm sure this varies, but her title was a pre-med advisor, and I did not really I would go in there asking questions about what I could do to make my application stronger and all these things, and she had no advice for me. And I think the fallacy is that you said, this comment obviously really impacted you because you feel that somebody that has some kind of power or insight or knowledge is advising you correctly, and I just don't find that to be true. First of all, second of all, like Dave said, there's many things that have happened, and I'm sure we'll talk about those as well. But for the first thing, I just want to say, if you want a clear idea as to what your chances are or how your application looks to an AdCom committee, I would highly recommend going to like your state medical school and talking to like the med school advisor.
Yes.
And so that's Amy Ahern at the University of Iowa. And if you're
someone from admissions, because
I got completely different advice. Like my med school advisor, and I was like a decent student. I would say I'm an average applicant to a medical school. And her advice to me was like, oh, I don't know what your chances are. Like everyone's chances are 50-50. It was just not helpful. And then I came here before I applied and I like talked to Amy Ahern and she was like, your application looks great. Like all these things that you think are like not going to get you in are actually fine, like totally fine. Maybe you could focus on like this. Maybe you could focus on getting service in this area. But like Amy Ahern is our, like I said, our AdCom director or on the admissions committee. And she knows like directly, like this is what we look at. These are our metrics for our medical school. And frankly, the people on the other end of the undergrad line, they don't know, and they don't work in admissions. They don't have, like, I thought this person had like a degree in knowing exactly what would get me in. And frankly, she didn't. And again, like I said, this could vary from school to school. And I mean, even in this school, it could vary. Like maybe I just had a different kind of advisor and some of my friends had great advisors. I just really want to urge you to not let this comment that I know is hurtful, that honestly every single one of my friends has heard before. Like there are a million stories. I think almost every single person that I've talked to had someone tell them they wouldn't make it or like couldn't get in, and here they are with me right now in medical school. And like Matt was saying, it is just like immensely discouraging, and I think these people don't realize that they are the point person. This is who students are coming to ask. So what you say holds a lot of water, and I would not let that discourage you. And the last thing I wanted to say before I'll get off my soapbox, I have a master's degree as well. Mine is in clinical anatomy. And I can assure you that the great part about having an advanced degree is, for the most part, nobody even looks at your bachelor's degree because, like you said, that's just so much, further back. And like you were saying, it sounds like you did really well in your public health program, which is awesome. And I'm not on the admissions committee, obviously, but when you do talk to somebody in the AdCom, I'm pretty sure they'll tell you that your most recent degree, which is also like a master's, is obviously like a step forward. It's a little bit harder to attain a master's than a bachelor's. So that's going to be great that you did well in that. And I would probably say no one really will care about what happened in early undergrad, especially because so many of the metrics focus on trend, and you clearly seem to have an upward trend in your grades. Yeah.
You said it all.
Yeah.
I think in addition to, as a fellow first gen person, I didn't know a single person in medical. I mean, I guess aside from my like primary care provider, I didn't know anybody. And similar to Ananya, had a kind pre-medical advisor who just said, yep, doing great, with no other critical suggestions or anything like that. And I wasn't doing bad, but I also wasn't doing great. And I didn't know because I didn't have anybody to ask or look up to. I think some advice that other students may hear is like, oh, stay off of Student Doctor Network or Reddit or things like that. And I would like push back against that, at least in my experience as a first generation student. Aside from, like Carver admissions, I didn't have anybody to ask personal questions to. I didn't have other sources of knowledge. And I think you have to look at these websites with a grain of salt. Obviously, there are going to be very neurotic people or naysayers on those websites. But I think I have regrets that I didn't look at those websites because I had been told not to in my pre-medical application process. I think had I looked back and seen what other people had posted, for example, like how they were studying or how they handled certain situations in their application process, I think that's just all the more information for you to kind of integrate into your own experience. I don't have the personal lived experience of being academically dismissed, but I'm 99.9% confident that if you look up on these forums that you will find other people who
100%.
have had a similar situation and who have successfully navigated that process. And obviously everybody's journey to medical school is different, but I guess I would recommend you, if you have not yet looked, just Google academically dismissed journey to medical school, and I'm sure that you will find other people's experiences, and you'll probably find more insight there from somebody who has actually traversed that process than me just kind of postulating here. I think, having read some of these forums from experiences that I've seen of other students, the general kind of recommendation is to, in your personal statement, talk about, what was going on in that time that led to you being academically dismissed, but then like even more, you can be brief, I think, in that part, and then to explain like what you learned from that and how you grew and how that adversity will make you an even more compassionate, empathetic, etc. physician. I think a common trend in medical school admissions committees is wanting to see your ability to reflect and grow, and how do you handle adversity, because medical school and being a physician is presumably difficult, and if they see that you have the grit and resilience, etc., to overcome life's obstacles, I think that's like a positive in your mark.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off and say, just like as an M1, a lot of these admissions things are, fresh in my mind, having gone right off of those and into med school. And I think a lot of the things that you guys said are correct, and just like, obviously it's a mark on your resume, but also you've had a lot of lived experiences since, and med schools and especially admissions committees love to see those trends. They like to see how you've grown as a person, and by your call, it sounds like you've grown a lot as a person. So really just like highlight the things that make you different from the person that was academically dismissed. Like was said before, if you go on SDM, make sure that you treat it with a grain of salt, because there's people that are going to be telling you things that might be in undergrad, haven't applied, those kind of things. People that are just there to like have more power than they need to. So I'd agree, going on it isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it can get in your head. So be really cautious with the stuff you take as truth. Kind of the same way that we said not to take everything from your academic advisor as truth.
I totally agree with everything that's been said so far, but kind of going back to the SDN and seeking out other resources, I'm also a first generation college student and medical student. And something that I found really helpful was another podcast, the Pre-Med Years, I think it's called, by Dr. Ryan Gray. He interviews a lot of non-traditional students, and I'm sure he has interviewed somebody who's been academically dismissed before. Like his podcast goes back years. So I'd also recommend that resource.
And I'll point out that I find Dr. Gray more credible than many pre-med advisors, because he spends a significant amount of time talking to admissions committees and trying to understand what it is they're looking for. Yeah. But, I think to sum up, you got this. Also, you're right. You don't have anything to lose. Like if you, for the rest of your life, don't give this a shot, you're never going to know. I think it's going to work out. And I will also say that med schools love people with life experience. Yes. And you've got it. Yep. So
I was going to say one more thing.
Yeah.
Apply broadly. Applying to medical school is still very competitive. So I would say apply to both MD and DO schools. Like there shouldn't be a stigma against DOs. It's stupid. So I would say still apply broadly and keep an open mind about, places that you get interviews and stuff.
Yeah. I also want to say, like, definitely, it sounds like you were telling us about this experience you had in Ecuador, but definitely talk about that, because we 100% need more diversity. We need like more people like you in medicine to treat patients who look like you. And so that's really important. And I think that's huge that you have that. I think that's a huge superpower that you come from this background. And the second thing I want to say, just briefly, I know you were academically dismissed, so I don't know like I'm guessing maybe you're worried about a GPA situation. And I just wanted to tell you that if there's classes that like you maybe like need to like bump up or whatever, I would highly recommend taking like like a person in the admissions committee will maybe advise you better, but I would recommend, like, if you want to retaking things at a community college, because it sounds like you said you did better in like a small group setting. I just want to put that out there, that there's nothing like lost if you have grades that you need to like get up or something like that. Then,
or take them non-degree at a 4-year institution. You can
exactly.
Do that
exactly. That, and like
too.
Make sure you're in like a class size that works for you, like over a summer or something. But
summer's great. For fixing those.
Yeah, I took a lot of hard classes over the summer.
I think it sounds though like she basically fixed
everything.
All
sounds
of that,
like it.
so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good luck, Valerie. I'd love to hear what happens. Keep us posted, and you're going to do great.
We believe in you.
Yeah, you're awesome.